Hello everyone, it's been a while. With a new balance patch coming along the way, I want to talk about the Gunlancer changes. This video will cover the blue build only. So Gunlancer got some changes overall in this balance patch. However, the stat distribution and the major builds are just still the same. For example, the full spec with variance is substat in Swiftness with Nightmare set, or substat crit with Hallucination set with Keen Blunt instead of Cursed Doll. The Hallucination build brings more DPS, however this requires high level cooldown gems and some people may be stressed out from the slowness. The Nightmare Swiftness build brings more utility and comfort, a very safe pick. If you can control your mana status very well, you can rotate your skills very quickly. However, there are fewer yellow numbers for you to see in terms of damage, and people who don't like the Nightmare set with the mana changes, they don't tend to take this build as well. There are also Salvation or 2 Nightmare 4 Salvation builds, which are pretty good if your weapon quality is bad. However, these are more niche builds. If you have a 9/7 stone, you can put the level 2 in Barricade, Cursed Doll, or Adrenaline. Generally, Gunlancer does not need to invest into 9/7 stones because the changes are minuscule compared to the potential gold spending required for the stone. In essence, I think all the builds are about the same, with positives and negatives balancing out. I would suggest you guys to try all the builds in Trixian before choosing one. So at the latest balance patch, a couple of blue skills got some damage buffs and utility changes. Here are the 7 skills and the 2 optional skills that you have to use as a Blue Gunlancer. Bash has been updated to the extended range without the T3 tripod. You will still need to use Bash for your attack damage buff increase though. So the playstyle is still the same, where you need to cycle your DPS skills within a 6-second timer. This skill is now fixed at level 7 because T3 tripods are pretty much useless. Shield Bash has gotten a cooldown buff too, so no cooldown gem is needed here, but some people still put the cooldown gem on for more comfortable adrenaline buff upkeep. Shout of Hatred costs less mana and has additional tripods for less mana cost. You can use Focus Rune with range increase, or Mana Tripod with other rune choices. I personally really like the range increase tripod because the difference is quite significant. Guardian Thunderbolt and Leap Attack is the number 1 and number 2 most damaging skill, where your highest level damage gem should be applied. As for Thunderbolt, it's the same as usual, and Leap Attack is the same with 2 preferences, of Quick Prep versus Direct Hit. Your cycle changes based on how you want to use the skill. Quick Prep has higher overall DPS, but requires you to rotate a little more. The Direct Hit version is more concise, single hit numbers. There are also Electric Field versus Shockwave on T2 tripod. Electric Field has higher DPS, but the boss needs to be stationary or not moving as much for all the 5 ticks to land, whereas Shockwave delivers good average damage in 2 ticks. Shield Shock has gotten a destruction buff. If you have the T3 second turbulence tripod, the total destruction amount is 2. So if you bash, shield bash, and shield shock, that's 4 destruction points at a very short time. People are shifting towards adding damage and cooldown gem into shield shock, since you don't need cooldown gem on shield bash anymore. My recommended skill set is 5 damage gem layout of these skills. From here, you can replace shield shock to dash upper fire for heavy counter rates, or you can even take Nalasha out, because the skill lacks efficiency as DPS players get better and better on the rates. In my personal opinion, I like it, but unless it's a very cleanse heavy raid like a Khan, sometimes I never use it at all. So right now I took up the cooldown gem for Nalasha, but I still kinda use it because Gunlancer without Nalasha doesn't really feel Giga Chat enough. Some people put damage or cooldown gems on the identity skill. The intention of this is for more burst at certain times of the raid, but I believe the skill is more used for utility, so I don't quite recommend it, but feel free to try it out. So in summary, these 3 skill sets are the most popular ones right now. The first one is the most recommended on non-counter heavy raids. Double gems on the major skills, and double gems on shield shock. If you replace shield shock with dash upper fire for counters, you have 3 gems that can be allocated based on your preference. You can put cooldown gem on shield bash if you want, or double gem on dash upper fire, or put 3 cooldown gems on shield bash, dash upper, and Nalasha. All the options are completely up to you. As mentioned earlier, some people take out Nella and allocate gems like the first set as well. Also, for those of you who are wondering on gem levels, focus damage gems on Guardian Thunder and Leap Attack first. As for cooldown, make sure Bash is the highest cooldown level gem. I would get level 10s on Bash as soon as possible because all your cycles revolve around Bash cooldown. As for cycles, first things first, remember to pair Bash and Shield Bash together. Then most of your mistakes will be solved. Then use the other DPS skills within the Bash buff. If your Leap Attack is the quick prep version, you're rotating Bash, Shield Bash, Thunder, Leap Attack, Shield Shock if you have it, then Bash, Shield Bash, Shield Charge, Leap Attack, and Shield Shock. All you need to do is organize your thought process by grouping Bash with Shield Bash, and then Leap Attack and Shield Shock, and rotating Guardian Thunder and Shield Charge in between. Other skills like Shout and Nella can be squeezed in any time between the fight. The direct hit for leap attack adjusts the cycle a little bit. This is more recommended for skill sets with dash up or fire instead of shield shock. The pairing of bash and shield bash is the same, and you're pairing Guardian Thunderbolt and shield charge instead. So the first cycle will be bash, thunderbolt, shield charge, and then shield shock if you have it. Second cycle will be bash, shield bash, and leap attack, and then shield shock. So obviously the second cycle is more concise, therefore the cycle itself for this particular skill set is loved by people who want shorter cycles and less button pressing. Obviously you will need to adjust your cycles on the fly during the fight to be a better player. For example, you can use some of the movement skills like shield charge and leap attack for getting into position, then use bash and shield bash to restart your cycle with the remaining skills. Obviously this results in less damage, but all skills must be utilized freely for overall better performance. Just make sure to understand how cycles work and what is fundamentally important, which is squeezing in DPS skills within a 6-second bash buff. Blue Gunlancer's floor damage is much higher than the red Gunlancer due to freedom in positioning. They also deliver much higher overall stagger. Their bad side was lack of destruction, but that was fortified with additional destruction added on skills with the balance patch. I would recommend the blue build over the red for players who are looking for a solid, safe, easy class that delivers massive utility and stagger, destruction, and various mitigation from awakenings and identity skills. Blue build barely uses potions and is hard to die due to infinite shield regen. Gunlancer is still one of the most loved classes for new raid procs too. So if you like the playstyle and if you don't mind the backstep on the spacebar, it is a very good class for you to start with for the newbie players out there. Lastly, remember, make sure to try all the information above in Trixion, then invest your gold into the builds. Thank you friends, bye bye!